Live from the Motor City, all the way to the Volunteer State. It's time for the Reckless Speculation Podcast, where we recklessly speculate the latest news in the world of sports. From college football to NASCAR, we've got you covered. And don't forget to stick around for the world-famous Bet Your Nuts, where we will give you your best bets to make the most money. Now sit back, grab your favorite drink of choice, and join Robbie Davis, Raj Mehta, Brandon Chain, and Tom Sloan. It's showtime.
This will be pitch number 7. The count is still 1-2. Gaddis Soto, a high fly ball to center. Thomas backing up. Thomas at the track. And Juan Soto! A 3-run home run! Soto magic in Game 5! An incredible moment as Juan Soto goes deep to give the Yankees a 5-2 lead in the 10th inning.
Down the line. Edman drives this ball deep left center field. Back goes Nimmo. Clean up Tommy Edman. A 2-run blast. Little man with a big impact in his first October in LA. Tommy Edman hit 6 home runs in his 2 months with the Dodgers this regular season. 4 of them came in a 2-day stretch where he was hitting cleanup. It's like he puts on this costume like all the kids are going to during Halloween coming up here and then plays that role to perfection. Smith whips a high drive to center field. Taylor back. Here it is. Gone. Will Smith searching and here in Game 6 finding a 2-run home run.
Two-seamer right down the middle. Don't let his size fool you.
As a Dodger fan, let me first start out that as soon as there's 2 guys on for the Yankees, I'm effing going to the bathroom because I swear to God, every time they hit a home run, it's a 3-run home run. There were a lot of those. I think actually it was a 2-run home run, if memory serves, off of Clase when it's Judge versus Clase, which was just amazing. But we'll get into that. This is Reckless Speculation, our World Series preview. I am your host, Raj Mehta. And with me, as always, is the host of Debrief, the basically a weekly look at everything D-Town, which basically seems like I said, no more pity on that beautiful city because those assholes seem to win everything. And Tom, why don't you tell us about Debrief real quick and how are you doing?
Hey Raj, what's happening? Yeah, it's the I just launched it last week. It's the Debrief podcast, hence the D meaning Detroit. So what it's going to focus on, all things Detroit, Detroit sports. As you know, we'll talk a little bit about the Tigers that are great run toward the end, getting into the postseason. The Lions are playing some damn good football, and there's hope. There's hope with the Red Wings, and the Pistons might be a year or 2 away, but there's just a lot of good stuff going around in the city of Detroit, and I just felt like it was a good time to get something rolling, focusing on Detroit, and we're gonna hit on some Detroit hot spots and some of the best places to go and eat as the show kind of evolves. So look forward to that. It's been a good start so far.
Nice, dude. I mean, for those that don't know, Detroit is not 8 Mile. It is not RoboCop. There's been a massive renaissance. Call it gentrification. I know there's a lot of hipsters, but
and contrary to what the former president says, it is definitely back. If you saw what happened in the draft, that was a good indication.
I was going to say, not a wise strategy to attack like the epicenter of American industrial growth, aside from the steel industry, but which is also there, as you know. But hey, I can't figure that dude out, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But just to give you guys some background, we're going to discuss basically the World Series as it is. This is as hyped a series as I can remember. Let me first say that rest in peace. This is a 1981 Dodger World Series championship ring given to my son, replica, but it's Fernando Valenzuela's. In 1984, one of my first games ever, that's how old I am. It was Doc Gooden versus Fernando, sold out game. It was pretty crazy. It went into extras, but my dad made us leave early. He was also gone half the time, and my buddy Eli and I, who were like 8, realized he was drinking beers the whole time. So, because as he said, Dragon Lady wasn't breathing fire down neck. I'm like, hey, thanks for driving 2 8-year-olds home. Also, you'll see up here a very good friend of mine who is a DC guy who knows Trump as well. Got me invited to the Walker Buehler golf tournament in Lexington, and it was to benefit Rich Hill, whose son had disease, and it was amazing. I may have imbibed a little bit too much because in the silent auction, I woke up with a signed Valenzuela jersey. I have no fucking idea what my bid was, but I'm stoked. I mean, he was just a pioneer, not just a baseball. The Dodgers did him dirty at a time when ownership was just McCord, the parking lot attendant, and he buried all that and became a pioneer in Spanish broadcasting. He's a god in LA. You see the jerseys everywhere. It's, you know, our heroes are, as a friend of mine that's a Reds fan with Pete Rose passing away, whatever you think of them, they were our heroes. And them passing away certainly puts things into perspective. And especially with Fernando, you know, the day before, or we're about to start playing the Yankees. And that was that 81 World Series, the last time we faced them. So
I was surprised to see he was only 63. That was shocking. Way too young.
Shocking. And he had lost a lot of weight. He had kind of, gained weight. He was kind of bummed out after the Dodgers did him dirty. Basically, they cut him essentially before he was due a $2.5 million bonus. And he had given his life for the team. And it was a different ownership group. And it pissed everyone off. But they made like a public amends. And anyways, rest in peace, Fernando, a pioneer and someone that, he always looked up to the sky, ironically. And this Saturday,
even when he pitched, he got that high leg kick and he looked straight up
at the sky. I tried to teach that to my 10-year-old. Didn't work so well. I think he broke a window, but I'll be there, fortunate enough to be in LA for World Series Game 2. And I'll certainly be looking up to the sky, praying for Fernando, and praying Fernando can help us out. I hope that's not too greedy. But moving on here, we were going to talk about each team. First, the quick review, Tom taking the AL and myself taking the Dodgers. And then we wanted to do a position-by-position breakdown of each team and just see who has the advantages, and then eventually end up with an overall prediction and, anything else that may come up. I've had texts and questions, so we shall see. But starting with, first of all, the Detroit Tigers quickly, way ahead of schedule. And what did they have to win to get in down the stretch? The last 2 months, they went, what was their record?
They went, it was something in the around 31-12 since August 11th. I think that was about what they ended up. They had a 0.2%, not 1.2% chance of making the postseason at first pitch of August 11th. And
only here,
they
folks.
Went on, they went on just an unbelievable run. Now, prior to the season, there was a lot of hope. You had Riley Green, you had Torkelson coming in. They were each, another year under their belt. You just kind of felt like they were going to make their move. Skubal, Casey Mize was going to be healthy. There was just a lot to look forward to, and I even speculated that they were going to win the division, and they got off to, I believe yeah, oh, absolutely. They got off to a really good first week, and then it went downhill from there. And so I can recall going down to Cincinnati. My wife and I, and we caught the series down there. They ended up sweeping the Reds. Was kind of the start. You felt like, man, there's a lot of fight in this team. They're about 12 games under 500, but they came into a house of horrors. Cincinnati's always been kind of a place where they have not had a whole lot of success. So they go in, they sweep, they play great baseball. Skubal ends up on that Sunday getting 13 strikeouts, which ended up being a season high. And, they started, picking up steam. And like I said, August 11th was kind of the launching point. And they get in the postseason. They finished second in the division to the Guardians. And it just, what a run. What a fun run. And Detroit is so exciting when the baseball team is good. When the Tigers are good, Comerica Park is alive. And, man, it was exciting. Christina and I went down quite a few times there in the last couple of weeks of the season, and we actually got in on the postseason. So we got to see both of their home games, and, man, was it electric. It was just such an awesome atmosphere.
I think I was at a game or somewhere with friends, and I was showing everybody, look, Detroit's cool. Check it out. Like, it looks cool as hell when you were recording.
Yeah.
What I loved about the Tigers, ironically enough, a couple ties to the Dodgers. Number one, even though he got shelled in his last outing, he's starting at home tomorrow, and that's Jack Flaherty at the deadline. I mean, we don't play the what-if game because maybe if Flaherty's still there, other guys don't step up, but Detroit had a confusing deadline. Number two, Zach McKinstry couldn't hit the ball for shit in L.A., and I think he hit 429 in the playoffs. When you guys faced us, when we played you in Detroit, you kicked our ass. And McKinstry went, we were lucky to win that last one. And we usually own the Reds. We got swept in Cincinnati, man. But you just got a team that reminds me of National League baseball, that it's pitching, it's defense, it's hustle, it's youth. They're fearless. Yep. And, they still have a top 10 farm system. Do you think ownership's going to spend for any missing pieces, or are they just going to go status quo and expect everyone to get better? Because this is a team that is not far away, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a really interesting trade deadline. There was a lot of talk that they were going to make a move because at the trade deadline, I think they were about 6 games out from a wild card berth. They end up getting, trading Flaherty. They get Trey Sweeney, who had never gotten up to the big leagues. He came over from Boston, I believe, to LA, and then comes to Detroit through the Flaherty deal. And he becomes an everyday shortstop.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, as he comes up, Baez goes out with a hip injury, and to the chagrin of a lot of Tiger fans that were pretty happy about that. But they got hot, and I think he kind of fit that mold. And on the flip side too, as far as McKinstry goes, we all thought he was gone. We all anticipated McKinstry was going to be somebody that was going to get moved. Not that he had a lot of value, but he really hadn't done a whole lot up until that point. And right after the trade deadline, he started taking off. But so are they going to make moves? It's real tricky because Chris Ilitch is not one. He's nothing like his father. He's kind of frugal, and I think he's looked at how far they were able to get in this postseason, and I don't know if that's going to dictate what he's going to do. Scott Harris, the VP general manager has openly stated that they're kind of going to operate status quo as they have. Last year they brought Flaherty in. They brought Gio Gonzalez in. They brought veterans in on one year kind of low risk deals. But
Maeda, did you say Maeda? Maeda came in, right?
Maeda came in. Yeah, he's got another year. They're planning on utilizing him. He'll come out of the bullpen, but I do believe there's a lot of pressure from fans for them to make a move. I do believe they're going to spend a little bit more money than they've been known to. Let's face it, their AL wildcard payroll was less than Josh Hader, who they ended up beating to win that division. So there's a lot of room here. So there's two players that are on the Dodgers' current roster that I think would be perfect fits for the Tigers, and one being Jack Flaherty. I could picture him coming back to Detroit. He made it known how much he enjoyed being here, and he came here for Chris Fetter. He's become the pitching whisperer. And Walker Buehler. I would love to see them go after Walker Buehler. I think he's kind of a couple corrections here and there away from being the type of pitcher that you're very familiar with. I think those are two pitchers that you could throw in the mix to add with Skubal. You can add with Mize. I think they'll give Mize a chance. I don't know how much of a leash they'll give him because he's kind of shown that he's very undependable. So, and then position-wise, I think this is a no-brainer for me. He played with A.J. Hinch. He still has about 2 or 3 years left in the tank. I think it's Alex Bregman of the Astros. We need a third baseman.
That won't be cheap.
No, but again, they have lots of room here. They've got plenty of room to play with, and a possible DH / outfielder, Santander from the Orioles, I think, would be a nice bat to kind of throw in the mix within a lot of these young guys that they hit for average. They play good fundamental baseball. He's a winner, so I think you add a couple of those veteran presence that still have quite a bit in the tank, and it makes them arguably one of the better teams in the American League, especially the Central. So, but the big question mark really is Chris Ilitch going to spend money? I think he will, but I don't think he's going to break the bank. So, but he's got to improve that team. The playoffs showed that, Sweeney played great defensively. When they needed a hit, he couldn't get it. Torkelson struggled mightily at the plate. And they left so many guys on base in that Cleveland series that, one hit, we could be talking, Tigers, Yankees in the ALCS, but it didn't go that way. So I think they're close, and a couple pieces would put them over the top.
I agree. I mean, you have to pay your dues, and that team is paying their dues ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
A few things.
Well, it kind of, sorry to interrupt, but I likened them to the 2023 Lions, and this was as the regular season was coming to a close. Wasn't sure if they were going to make the postseason, but I looked at the way that this team played compared to the 23 Lions. The Lions were playing lights out. They started out, I believe it was like 1-6, 1-7, or something to that effect, and then closed the season out like 9-1. So, and missed the playoffs. Because of a week 4 loss to the Seahawks. Basically, they got the tiebreaker, but they were so close, and they played such good football at the end of the season. I said, man, this team reminds me of that team, and let's hope they make it, and they did. So head of schedule for sure.
Yeah, I'm just going to briefly hit on McKinstry. Total Dodger signing, total Dodger philosophy, and that's all flexibility. Guy can play every position in the infield, really, even some outfield. The Dodgers currently with Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, Tommy Edman, our best, him, Kopech, and Flaherty made it for once a great deadline for us without giving up too much. Max Muncy plays first and third. Betts, you can put him anywhere. I think he can catch. Miguel Rojas, and the bullpen's interchangeable as well. And that's what McKinstry represents, that type of versatility. And the Tigers played National League baseball. It's beautiful. They were getting on, moving runners over, pitching defense. They weren't smashing. I think they hit 3 home runs that series. But last thing I'll say is, I'm fortunate enough to meet Walker Buehler a few times. Fortunate enough to see him pitch a lot. His rookie year, we tied the Rockies for the division, game 163. And this is with an MVP and Cy Young on the team. There was no question it was Buehler. Big game Buehler. He has nuts of steel. And he had to learn how to leave his swing and miss stuff at home. It was a second Tommy John, and change how he pitched. And that's not easy. And the Dodgers, in my opinion, did him dirty in a way. They knew he was a free agent. He was going to get a max until he got hurt again. And he had a rehab. They had told us last year he may be back, this and that. Rehabs with LA. I think we have 12 pitchers on the DL right now, among other players. So our medical and training staff needs to metaphorically die. Buehler came back, got hurt again. Unprecedentedly, he went and did his rehab in Lexington after that. And I know there was a strong intuition, I'm not him, that there was a sense of distrust there. And if LA, he came out and did his thing, it'd be different. But there's also a reason why Flaherty's going game 1 at home and big game Buehler's going game 3 on the road, because he's got nuts of steel. And if you saw him in game 3 after the Mets kicked our butt in game 2, he was swing and miss, lights out, painting corners, fired up, and he's got a rare big game mentality. And to change how you throw confidence-wise, just everything, it was pretty amazing. And he's a moment guy. He needs leverage. So, somebody has to pay him. It's not going to be us, unfortunately, and we're going to miss him. I thought San Diego was going to take us out. They were, I think, the most balanced team for once. Yeah. We were the underdog and came through, but a lot of us were bummed because if that's how Buehler left, it would have just been so not poetic and so sad. But you and I do this, and I can go on and on. But talking about the Tigers, and I'm going to take this to the third degree, they lost in 5 to the Indians, who, despite losing 4-1 to the Yankees, played them pretty damn tight. What can you tell me about not only the Indians, but what the Yankees did? Because there were some 2-2 games and extra innings. So knowing the Indians and Tigers, tell me briefly some background on the most famous team, arguably in sport, the New York Yankees.
Well, the Tigers situation in Cleveland was they relied heavily on the bullpen. And let's not forget, the vast majority of arms that Hinch relied on from mid-August on were mud hens. There's guys that they brought up from Toledo. Ty Madden, let's see, Sean Gunther, Brennan Hannafy. These guys that basically, they brought Kiter Monteiro. He threw a 3-hit complete game.
I saw that
late
game
in the season.
Yeah,
these guys were unexperienced. They were very, very young, and when you look at it, the only starter Detroit ran with for the last 2 months was Skubal. Everything else after that was all, they call it around here, pitching chaos, or TBD was the pitcher. Whenever you see TBD, beware. And you know what? It worked. It got them to where they needed to be.
Fucking nicknames, man. I want some cool nicknames.
But the reality is, when they got to that Cleveland series, A, that's the most baseball I think most of these guys have ever played. And B,
crazy.
they were so overused. They were extended.
Yeah.
You look at Tyler Holton. He would start. He was the opener. How many teams in MLB have openers? If it wasn't Tyler Holton, it was Bo Brisky, who became legendary around here. But when push came to shove, I believe it was game 4 of the ALDS. They bring in Brisky. He gets the final out in the 6th. They bring him out in the 7th, and he gives up a 2-run homer to Cleveland legend Lane Thomas, who absolutely feasted on Tiger pitching in that series. But the bottom line is,
get out of the ball. Not like the
bottom line was, when you don't have offense, you need pitching, and their pitching just, it was good. It wasn't good enough. So moving on to Cleveland and New York, man, it was a buzzsaw, game 1 and 2. I think Detroit fought so hard, Cleveland so hard. They really, they took them to 5 games, and that took a lot out of that team.
Yeah.
Mainly their bullpen. So they get to New York, and New York is, what New York can do, and they took full advantage. And Cleveland goes home. I think most Guardian fans were in panic mode. I was saying on Twitter, listen, I was at game 1 of the ALCS or the ALDS. Cleveland crowd was crazy. It was madness at I still call it the Jake, Progressive Field. I wanted out of there as fast as I could because they were boat racing the Tigers. But I said, just be patient. You're going back to Progressive. You've got a great home field advantage. And, you saw what happened in game 3 and what should have happened in game 4. But the bottom line was basically they fell victim to what, happened in Detroit. They relied on Tyler Beebe to make 2 starts. He made 2 starts in the Tigers series. He was their only consistent pitcher. They brought in Matthew Boyd, who really pitched well, and I thought Vogt kind of handled his situation the wrong way, especially in game 4. They took him out way too early in my estimation. I think he still had another inning or 2 in him, and that would have preserved the bullpen that much more. Specifically Cam Smith, who just, he was an absolute beast. Rookie pitcher. He was their first kind of primary middle reliever that they would bring in. But they just wore him out. They wore him out. And when it came down to bringing Clase, let's face it, Kerry Carpenter, I think, kind of got into the psyche of Clase. Clase is undoubtedly the best closer in baseball, regular season. He gives up a 3-run homer in the 9th inning to Kerry Carpenter in the ALDS in game 2. I think that messed with him. And I have a theory. And I've been told I'm crazy, but it goes way back to the Mariano Rivera days. I believe firmly in my head that closers have a certain mindset. And I believe that their pitching mindset is to be prepared to close a game. So when you bring a closer in a non-save situation, I think it's a different mindset. Whatever the situation may be, I go back to the 2001 World Series, Yankees, Diamondbacks. They bring in Mariano Rivera, game 7 in the 8th to get the last out. Then they bring Mariano Rivera back out in the 9th, and the rest is history. Gonzo, who used to play here with Detroit in the mid to late 90s, gets the bloop single over the head, and Arizona wins the World Series. Track record of pitchers, closers that they bring in non-closing situations doesn't usually bode well in my estimation for teams. Go back into the year that Miguel Cabrera won the Triple Crown. There was a famous at bat against him. It was a no save situation against Rivera, and Miggy took him deep, dead center, and I just think the preparation is different. So he overused Clase. He used him in game 4 in Detroit, brings them in for a 6-out save.
That's a lot.
And I think that was kind of the game that extended him over. He didn't look right. His slider didn't slide, and he's hitting 100. But when you know what's coming, New York teed off on it. So, getting back to that series, I just think that New York took advantage of tired arms, and when they needed hits, Cleveland just could not make it happen. They left so many guys on base, a la the Tigers in the DS. So you cannot give the Yankees an inch, because Stanton in the previous series against Kansas City didn't do a whole lot. What did he do in the DS or in the CS? He absolutely tattooed Cleveland pitching. So they're too powerful. You can't give them any inch, because they're going to take full advantage of it. And youth, inexperience, and overproduction. The same story between the Guardians and the Tigers.
I mean, 100% agree. And I don't know who your friends are that say you're crazy. It's absolutely.
He's a Detroit sports play-by-play guy, as a matter of fact.
I think he's drunk, because it's 100% mentality. I just told you about Buehler, Daniel Hudson. I can name 10 pitchers on the Dodgers when they come in way too early, and it's a different, a non-leverage situation. It's a different mentality, man. It has to have bite. Alex Vesia, left-handed specialist, he's got to come in with inherited runners. It's just how he is. Closers as well. I always tell Kieran, it's young pitchers or guys that are dead set in their role. If something bad happens, an error behind them, or somebody hits a dinger kind of accidentally, in my opinion, if you don't know and you haven't been in that situation, take his ass out, because they could fall right apart. And Clase got tagged again. And then didn't that happen to you guys or someone that when Skubal gave up like a
grand slam to
Granny, right? Yeah, like right after
David
that.
Fry.
Yeah. And it's just you lose that bite. And that's all it takes, man. It takes a fraction of an angle or degree of break, and that's it. Overall, with the Yankees versus Indians, as opposed to the Tigers versus Indians, did you see a team with the Yankees that was just much better, more fortunate, took advantage of a tired team? What are your overall thoughts on the Yankees?
I think it's a team that is about as balanced as you can find and the same could be said with the Dodgers. You get production from, your murderer's row of the, Soto, Judge, and Mike Stanton, Mike Giancarlo.
One of the few players to ever hit it out of Dodger Stadium, by the way. I think there's been 5.
Yeah.
So that's great.
But then you look at, who led the Yankees in hits? Gleyber Torres, who was, on the hot seat there for a little bit. Anthony Volpe, who Gold Glove, third shortstop. They got contributions from not only the big players, but the guys that, nobody really talks about. John Birdie, a local kid from Troy, Michigan, which is about half an hour from where we're broadcasting right now. This guy's got the mustache of the century, him and Austin Wells. They just made plays. And I think it just really came down to a team that they could kill you with the long ball and they could kill you with the short ball. And it's tough. It really is tough when you're a team that, you rely on Josh Naylor and Jose Ramirez. That's kind of your power play, and they've got you handcuffed. I mean, Ramirez had a really, really tough postseason, and Josh Naylor, outside of really game 5 of the ALCS, he didn't do a whole lot. I think he needs to be on Ozempic. I'm not going to lie to you. He needs to lose a little bit of weight because I think it affects his gameplay.
Bro.
It affects his game. And, they're going to have a choice. He's a free agent this year. They're going to run with him. I would imagine they would, but there's really no holes when it came down to that lineup with New York. And it pains me to admit that, but it just comes down to, they're a better team, top to bottom. They're a better team. Pitching, maybe not so much, but when you're hitting back-to-back jacks in the bottom of or in the top of the ninth, it really doesn't matter, what your pitching does. They're just getting runs across left and right.
No, absolutely. I agree. It seems like for years, the Yankees were two guys and a bunch of other, Gary Sanchez and other dudes that just never came to fruition, no matter what deals they made. Pitching wise, I could argue their starting rotation is not nearly what it has been. The bullpen is solid, not spectacular, but they're the New York Yankees, and they have much more balance on that team. They play much smarter baseball than they've done in the past. Like you said, they've got a Gold Glove in Volpe, Wells, Trevino, more balance in the lineup. I think there's 4 lefties when, their rotation, it was usually right dominated. And again, you've got Soto hitting ahead protection-wise for Judge, who's hitting ahead of Stanton. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, it's really not fair. But let's face it, this World Series is the number 1 and 2 payroll in all of baseball. So,
the Mets had a higher payroll this year. I think we were 2 and 3.
That's true. The baseball purists will say, well, of course, they're buying their way in, and you know what? That's the name of the game. It happened here in Detroit, in the heyday in the early 2000s when Mike Ilitch was the owner. It was a blank check to Dave Dombrowski, and that's kind of been the mentality, especially with the Dodgers with Magic, the owner. It's like, hey, there you go. But look at where they're at.
He's only 5%, but we had Frank McCourt, horrible ownership group that was frugal, and the new ownership group, yes. But I'm always a strong believer in who's hot coming in, and we've won the division 11 times and payroll here, but when you're coasting down the stretch, we beat San Diego 2 years ago by 22 games, San Diego in the division. They beat us in 4 in the divisional. Beat Arizona by 16. They swept us last year. This year we were playing competitive games all the way down the stretch, and San Diego's far healthier and I think a more balanced team, but
cocky.
Oh God! Don't even get me.
They got in their own way. They got in their own way.
Cocky, like Jurickson Profar forgot for the other 10 years of his career, he sucked ass, and he was cut at the start of this year. They picked him up off the trash heap after the season started. I can verify, not personally because I didn't make out with him, but I know for a fact Machado was not only a douchebag and a child, but I was at actually the first game. We were sitting behind the Dodger dugout in Atlanta when LA acquired Machado, and he was playing third, and he just kept looking up in the sections the whole time. And I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? He had a dude on my child in the corner bringing girls down, pointing, and they bring him down to the section and sit him in that section. Stephanie's like, wow, that's dirty. And I'm like, just didn't say anything. I didn't want her to hate a Dodger. Is he married? Is he this? I don't know. The asshole was married and just had his first baby. And I saw him pulling girls down and waving. And he'd be like, he was staring in the crowd the whole time at third. His first game in LA, they were in Atlanta. He flew to meet us. Yeah, from Baltimore. And I was like, I think it was Baltimore. He may have been I was like, what a douchebag. But if you saw Profar antagonizing fans and they were such a bunch of douchebags. And, I was concerned. We were lucky to get past that. The bullpen game shut them out. They didn't score for 20-plus innings. They pitched the bullpen game in the fourth, and it was a contentious series. So going into the Mets series, I thought we could have been emotionally spent. I went to games 1 and 2 of the NLCS. I was very lucky. Game 1, we rolled them. Game 2, we got rolled, and it's just been such a roller coaster. And like switching gears to the Dodgers, and you talked about use, and the Dodgers are notorious for overuse of young pitchers. And it's really come back to haunt us. Right now we have 3 starters, all of whom are question marks. Flaherty mentally, Yamamoto for $300 million. We don't know what we're going to get from him on the road. Buehler, big game Buehler, I love. But again, he's completely changed how he pitches, his mentality, approach, set up pitches, not a lot of swing and miss. So that's all we got. Landon Knack is a guy from East Tennessee who gave up a granny in game 2. He was pretty terrible. But everyone else is hurt from opening day. Only Yamamoto is, quote, healthy. 4 older starters, guys that threw a lot. This year, Gavin Stone, a rookie, overthrew. Tommy John. Last year, Bobby Miller, Tommy John. River Ryan was in a deal that we stole from the Padres. They played him in the infield. My buddy with the Dodger organization said, watch out for this kid. Pitched in 4 games, like a 1 ERA, was lights out. Tommy John. Dustin May had Tommy John last year, Carrot Top. He got better and then tore his esophagus eating a steak right before he was about to come back this year. Tony Gonsolin. And then in the bullpen, my man, Mariachi Joe, the gangster. Speaking of the Padres, this is the Joe Kelly Fight Club. If you guys remember the stop bitching thing. I love
our good buddy Rich. Our buddy Rich Jasper has a T-shirt like that.
Yeah, dude, Kieran does too. He wears it to school. Has to explain it, which is awesome. But
what happened to Kelly?
It's his arm. It wasn't shoulder. He had gone off and on, and he came back and he redid it again. He's on the 10-day, but technically day-to-day. But it's he was possibly going to be in the NLCS, and then they listed him day-to-day. I think it's a elbow or shoulder. I can't remember. There's so many of them. We don't know yet about him. Brewster Gratterall, who is key, was a throw-in in the Mookie Betts deal from Boston. Not exactly a throw-in. May go. We really need him. You saw Freddie Freeman. The ankle is not 100%. He was gutting it out. We gave up some base runners and errors because Max Muncy is not 6'5" Freddie Freeman. And finally, the most important guy who was lights out and destroyed the Padres and is all fire is our left-handed specialist, Alex Vesia. Vesia owned Soto in the past, and he's really why I'm scared as hell.
Now what happened? He went in and I forget what game it was, and he shut the door on the Mets, and then they said he got hurt, and that was it. Didn't see him anymore.
Exactly. So he didn't hurt himself celebrating, which
I wondered that because he was very animated, and I thought, man, he's about to blow something out.
And that's him. It was actually the game 5 against the Padres.
You're right.
But it was a 2-0 game, and he was in. I can't remember who he was facing. Tatis, like some great lefty, and he is a celebrator. But when he came back out for the next inning, he was, it's the idea being a lot. For those that don't know, if you're doing a bullpen game, you want your 3 pitchers to go 1.1. And that way you can have 3 pitchers cover 4 innings. And that was the goal. He was going to come out for probably one more, and he felt something, and it was his intercostal, basically his rib. And he's throwing right now, but with Jazz Chisholm, who else is left? Verdugo, former Dodger and Red Sox, who was a trade between the Yankees and Red Sox. Rizzo, who caught fire in the last series. And finally, the guy that just absolutely scares the shit out of me in Juan Soto. So we really need Vesia. The other lefty specialist we have is Anthony Banda, kind of a dead fastball pitcher, not enough movement. A guy like Soto can hit it to Pasadena. So
I think this long layoff for both teams, I think that kind of levels the playing field. And if guys were kind of on the fence about playing or close but not there, I think this gives them an opportunity. With this series was set Sunday, and we have to wait till Friday to get this thing going. And as fans, that's kind of a bummer. But then you look at it, you want the best players playing. You want the best possible series, and I think this gives both teams that opportunity to make sure that they're as healthy as they can be going in to this series. Because let's face it, you're not going to have weather issues in LA, but when you come to New York, it's going to be a completely different ball game. You might get the long ball in LA, and you're going to get a 3-2, 4-3 game in New York, because this East Coast this time of year ain't no joke. I mean, it was 83 here in Michigan on Monday. It's about to be 50 the high this weekend. So, and that's the high. We're not talking about 8 o'clock first pitch. You're looking at mid to upper 30s, low 40s. So it's going to be the tale of two series, basically, depending on where they're playing.
Absolutely, dude. And I looked earlier in the week, and it was going to be high 50s, mid 60s in New York. Of course, we know that's not how the world works anymore. Thanks, elders and ancestors. But we shall see. A few years ago, I was lucky enough with my friend from college, and the organization was like, when I was here in Tennessee, and my buddy in LA that we all go to games with, it was like, yo, can you guys get to Boston by tomorrow? It was after game 1. And he's like, I got free seats at Fenway. You can stay in the team hotel with me. I was like, adios. Wow. And so, yeah, we went, and my wife loves baseball, thank God. But it was 18 degrees for the game. And it's just like, as a purist, I'm like, this isn't fucking right. Not for my team per se, but aren't they the boys of summer? We've sped up games, eliminate at least one series within the division, because that's my biggest fear. And it's not even for the Dodgers. It's just not enjoyable, dude. I was freezing my ass off. And yeah, we didn't have any warm weather dudes or cold weather dudes. So it just sucked, but you're right. It changes the game.
Yep.
And I think we do, kind of switching up gears here, which we're going to do next. We do have an advantage there with the versatility of our bullpen there. But I'm going to start off, folks, as we wanted to kind of go down position by position and see who has the advantage in our opinion, asking each of us that question, and then ask about managers and ask about finally defense. And then we're going to give our predictions for the World Series. Again, starting Friday night in LA, Saturday in LA, 8:08 Eastern, 5:08 Pacific. I fly out Friday. I had a chance to go to game 1. I may still, but it's not cheap. With my friend in the organization, we get face value options, which are not cheap, because I went to games against the cheating Astros and against Boston, and even went to Texas in the COVID year thanks to a friend, and it was like a third of what these things are. So it's insane. And the market in New York as well. Another quick note, when you're a banged up team, you're doing the 2-3-2, and those 3 games are not back to back to back.
Yeah.
LA against lefty ground ball pitchers, even though Freddie Freeman can have reverse splits, they sat Freeman and Lux the right side of their infield because of their injuries against ground ball pitchers and double plays. And we were 2-0 in those games. I was shocked, but it was an interesting decision, and that's what I expect to see it in this series. Just kitchen sinks thrown at everyone. And for us, the week off was huge. We had 2 bullpen games, 3 starters, Lux hurt, Freeman hurt. Whereas the Yankees right now, the only real injury is Nestor Cortez. In my opinion, I think LeMahieu's out and other guys that haven't done much. So we are going to benefit from that, I hope. But let's go position by position, and let's see who we think has the advantage here. And I'm talking defense overall, whatever you think. Starting out at first base with the Yankees, we got a dude in Anthony Rizzo who looked really good in that last series. Now, do you want to go back and forth and switch between the Yankees and the Dodgers, or just go off the Yankees and I can tell you the Dodgers because I dream about them in my heart?
Yeah, I mean, we can stick here in New York.
That works. I don't know how you did things. For those that don't know, Tom is a wizard, and I could barely find my thumb. So let's start it first with an older Anthony Rizzo, but a guy who had a huge resurgence. I love the Gold Glove thing, by the way. That's badass. Rizzo
those
versus
are Gold Glove finalists this year. Yeah, so you got Rizzo going up against Freddie Freeman there.
wow, nice.
But Rizzo's dealing with 2 fractured fingers on his left hand. So he sat out the divisional series against Kansas City, and they elevated him up for the CS against Cleveland. So that is a big concern. But I think, he reminds me a lot of Freddie Freeman. His leadership, his heart, and his defensive skills. He's as good as they get, even though he had kind of a blunder in Game 3 in the ALCS where he just completely fumbled the ball. But he's a good defender, and he won the World Series in 2016 with the Chicago Cubs against my dad's Cleveland Indians, which I was heartbroken over. But that's I mean, if you're comparing the two, I think if we're antiquating offense into this scenario as well, you have to give the edge to the Dodgers because Freeman's kind of ability to spray the ball. He's kind of an off-field hitter. He's got a little bit more power. And I think an ankle injury, albeit it's serious, but having that week off is going to help him. I think that's not going to take away from his power. Rizzo having fractured fingers, you can't really squeeze the bat, and you get jammed. You're going to feel that for about 3 weeks. So I'm going to give that edge, I think, to the Dodgers there when it comes to first base. Second place, Gleyber Torres. Like I mentioned earlier, he was on Aaron Boone's hot seat because he's got hustle issues. Well, that seems to have gone to the wayside because he led, he's leading all Yankees with, I believe he's got 11 hits on during the postseason. So he's doing real well, in comparison to Gavin Lux there at second base.
That check, you are absolutely right. He and Soto are tied with 11 hits. I did not expect that one. Good call there. Lux has missed some time and he hurt his groin, but yeah, Torres is another one of those Yankees that we all heard about, and he's been around for a while, but this series put a lot more together. And yeah, I mean, I think you were probably going with Torres over Lux.
I think Torres' offensive production, he can hit the long ball. He's got pop. And he can steal bases too. So I think he's a little bit more of a 4 or 5 tooled player compared to Lux, but Lux is an absolute Dodger player. He's as you like to say, he's a national leaguer. He's a gritty guy that he can get you a big hit at important times, and he plays pretty good defense. So, but unlike, or I should say, like the situation at first base, I think the offensive versatility for Torres gives them the upper hand there. Shortstop, I mean, this guy just Anthony Volpe. He's a Gold Glove finalist. He absolutely had his way with Guardian pitching there in that series. When they needed a big hit toward the bottom of the lineup, he got him that big hit. Off defensively, as you can see, he's a Gold Glove finalist. Compare that to Tommy Edman, who you could probably hit on this a little bit more than me. He comes to LA via trade, mid-season.
Yeah, he wasn't even healthy yet. He'd been out of baseball for over a year. I loved the deal because I'd seen what he had done. He's also half Korean, which made one of my very good friends very happy. But, he's not a natural shortstop for sure. Miguel Rojas is the starter. He's a Gold Glover, quite sure in the past, but he tore his groin and tried to go against the Padres and almost cost us a game. And this is interesting in that, it's not quite apples to apples defensively. You definitely have to go with Volpe, but offensively, you're looking at Tommy Edman being the NLCS MVP,
right?
Going 11 for 27, 407 during the series, 3 doubles and a homer, and they were all clutch hits, like in Game 6, 3 RBIs on 2 doubles, like, and he hit cleanup, or he hit ninth. He could hit 1 through 9 literally, and he was just getting on base. And we're a big matchup team, and he's a switch hitter, so he hits better from the right. But just his versatility everywhere was absolutely amazing, and he was our best player, and he's on fire. So, and he's also got that edge to him, like the kind of like a SoCal, like Hawaiian, like what the fuck ever, it is what I do. It is what it is. I'm not going to overthink it. Let's go.
I think that's because his teammate is Kike Hernandez. I mean, he exemplifies that West Coast, I don't give a just mentality, and he said so much in the post game. Are we live? We don't, because we don't give a fuck. It was like that was classic. And left I forget who the on-field reporter was, but left him speechless. So, but yeah. So moving on here to third base, I think Chisholm's a wild card. I think he's got all the skills, all the tools to be the MVP in this World Series. But where's his head at? He is the kind of polar opposite of what you expect out of a Yankee. He's cocky. He's very animated. He's very vocal. He doesn't kind of resonate as what you would expect from a Yankee. But maybe that works for him. I think he got a little bit complacent in the Cleveland series. He let the umpire get in his head a little bit. Took some bad pitches, struck out a couple times. But he's a guy that I think the rest of the baseball fandom will say is going to get a first look at him. And he was buried in Miami. No one, I mean, outside of MLB The Show, I think in 2021, who he was the cover guy, no one really knows a whole lot about Jazz Chisholm. So I think we're, the not so purist style baseball fan is going to get a look at him. Is he going to be a superstar? We'll see. I mean, he's got the potential, but it's a mental thing or a mentality thing, and where's that going to be? And then I love Max Muncy. You look at him, he's a leadoff guy, but he weighs like 240 pounds, and he's a big dude. He's not your prototypical leadoff guy, but my God, all he does is perform. I mean, when push comes to shove, they need a hit. Max Muncy's the guy. And he's been that guy for the Dodgers, for the past few years. And another thing I really like about Muncy, the guy just has the same look on his face all the time. He's always focused in on the game. He doesn't really let his emotions get the best of him. And I like that in players. He's got a calmness about him, almost Jared Goff-esque. And he just goes out and gets the job done. And that's kind of my take on Muncy. I think track record-wise with Muncy, what he's been able to do in the postseason, this is Jazz Chisholm's first postseason. We're not sure what we're going to see with him. I give the edge to Muncy for the experience factor.
Yeah, he's been around, and one thing about Muncy, he does strike out a lot, but if you piss him off, he brings the fire. You saw it with red ass Baumgartner before, go get it out of the ocean, when Baumgartner was talking trash and Muncy didn't even say anything in San Francisco, and he hit the ball so hard it ended up in the bay, but you could see Muncy saying, go get it out of the ocean. And that became a t-shirt that we all have. But Muncy was hurt most of the year. But one thing about Muncy is he has the best eye on the team. He had 12 walks in this past series. His OPS was 1.014. There are some Ks, but he provides protection. He sees pitches. And that's essential. The Dodgers' swing and miss rate and chase rate is the best in baseball. And it's essential to what we do. And it was huge against the Mets. And it's going to be huge against the Yankees. So I agree. He may not be most fleet of foot, but Max Muncy brings a lot more to the table. And he's also a great guy to hit behind. Like I said, he's going to wear out, take the most pitches, and whoever's behind him is probably going to see something nice. So I agree with you there that I'm going with Muncy. Another thing about Chisholm, he had a good year, and his stats in the regular season were actually pretty much the same in Florida as in New York. But the playoffs for the New York Yankees is very different than the Florida Marlins. And right now you're looking at a guy who's hitting 147, a 216 OBP, barely getting on base and stealing bases, complaining all the time. You see a young kid who is not stepping up in the hardest place to play. So
it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, especially when you're not performing.
Yeah, exactly. In Miami, they don't care. Whatever we get out of you is awesome. For the Yankees, we traded this for you to plug a hole. You're fast. You're a cover boy or cover dude on the show, and you've been garbage in the playoffs. So I'm going with you there. What did you have next for position?
Well, I think we'll lop up the outfield in general.
I think it'll be pretty
as a
quick
whole.
there.
Yeah, so you're looking at on paper, it's unfair. You talked about earlier with Soto protects Judge, who protects, Mike Stanton. And you would look at that as, there it is, it's over right there. But Verdugo is kind of the forgotten guy. He's a former Boston Red Sox who, if you looked at him as a Yankee compared to what he looked like in Boston, completely different player because he's got no facial hair. The Yankees team rule, you can have a mustache, but no like beards, no goatees, no long hair. He looks like a completely different player. He got some key hits. They were not what you're used to seeing Verdugo. A lot of swinging bunts, kind of put the ball where the fielders weren't in that Cleveland series. But as you can see, he's a Gold Glove finalist. He brings that to the table, and you're going to want a guy like that. And ironically enough, both of your corner defenders there in the outfield are Gold Glove finalists. And when you're playing a team like the Dodgers, who are, historically they're good down the line hitters, a lot of doubles hitters, you're going to want defenders that are going to be able to defend against that. So that is definitely an advantage that New York has in this series going in. Not only their versatility defensively, but I mean, there's potential for home runs from each and every one of those positions. And then you look at the Dodgers here, Teoscar Hernandez, who comes over from Seattle, I believe. Man, he's performed. He's a big time power hitter. And then you look over on the other side, who is probably my favorite baseball player going right now, Mookie Betts. He plays shortstop. He can play second base. You said he could probably catch. He's as clutch as they come. Having that guy on, especially when it comes to when the series switches over to New York, short porch in right field, you're going to want to have a guy that's going to be able to cover that ground. Rookie Andy Pages. You like how I pronounced it? Similar. I think I got it right.
No, you nailed it, but his defense sucks ass. He kills them.
So you look at those guys, Kevin Kiermaier, and I think Kike might play a little center field. Where Pages lacks defensively, but has a stick. He hit 2 home runs in the NLCS. Kevin Kiermaier has got the glove, but he can't hit, very well. So, but looking at the overall scope here, a lot like the infield. I mean, it's about as even as they come. But when you're talking about October baseball, you're talking about World Series baseball, and you need a hit when it matters most. I think the edge really, to me, is going to go to New York here for the simple fact that Judge came on toward the end of the Cleveland series. He had been ice cold coming up to that point. Soto has just been as consistent as can be. And what Verdugo might not necessarily get offensively, he makes up defensively. So I think they're a little bit more well-rounded. I think speed-wise, the Dodgers have the upper hand in that situation. A little bit more base-to-base offensively. But that doesn't hide the fact that Hernandez could take control of a game given the right fastball. So it's almost a 1 and a 1A factor, but it's hard to look past the Gold Gloves in the corners and the offensive capabilities in New York. So the slight edge for me is New York.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, how Soto has been a finalist for 2 years in a row baffles me. If you look at the statistics and the metrics, it's been pretty bad. In 2022, it was second to last of all eligible right fielders and Fangraphs defensive metrics. This past year, he was like in the 200s. He's got all of the tools. Does he see the ball as well? And, he's in a short porch. Does it come off the bat as well? Does he close as well? No, not. I mean, Mookie's won 6 Gold Gloves. Mookie, by the way, has had 5 perfect 300 games in bowling. Mookie was a hell of a hooper, and that dude can do it all. It's crazy, and he was a hell of a football player too. But hitting wise, Mookie has been streaky to say the least. All of our big hitters have, and this past series, our murderers row was 4, 5, 6, which was Edman, Muncy, and Kike. The game I was at, I went to 1 in game 2, but game 2, the top 4 guys were 0 for 20. And that's Ohtani, Betts, and against Sean Manaea, who we just crushed in game 6.
Right.
Freeman and Teo, but overall, Teo over Verdugo, absolutely. Judge is a poor defender. I mean, let's just call it what it is. But he's Aaron Judge. And when it comes to hitting it overall, Kevin Kiermaier is probably the best defensive center fielder, one of the best in the game, maybe ever. Not literally, but I mean, he's phenomenal, but the guy can't hit at all.
Right.
And when Miguel Rojas is our everyday shortstop, Tommy Edman was in center. So it's very different. Pages has no feel or intuition. Personally, when Kike was in Boston, it wore him out a bit because he didn't hit as well, but he played in 2001 and 2022 177 games in center field, starting, I believe, 153. And in LA, he's played 11 times this year. So I'm praying he's getting a lot of balls, but because he is the epitome of captain step up. And I don't know if you saw that stat, but in the career, I can't remember how long, since 2021 or 2, his road playoff average was 516 in one of the statistics.
Wow.
Home runs per at bat, he was like 1 home run every 13.43 or something. That put him 5th or 6th all time, right behind Mickey Mantle. He's just clutch, dude. And
there's guys that when the lights are brighter, they have a switch, and it's a gift. And I think Kike is one of those guys when the postseason hits, like, he's got a different speed, he's got a different gear that he puts on, and Taylor was similar, although he's I don't know if he's gonna
year, but yes,
he's Chris Taylor. He was the guy that he was clutch. You needed a big hit, but he just, ever since they kind of gave him that contract, he hasn't been the same. But he's a guy that, man, he's got a heart and he's got a motor, and I love it. And he's built for that franchise, in my estimation.
Big time. Probably one of the best trades we've had. Zach Lee, who was an early draft pick, for Chris Taylor straight up to Seattle. Taylor's played every position. He saved our ass. We loved him. He hustles, but he strikes out like he's Aaron Judge. Not that Judge strikes out, but he's swinging for things, and he's got a hole in his swing, to say the least, lately. But he is the Dodgers, like you said. He was the first of those guys that could play 4 or 5 different positions back when you'd have a pitcher hitting and double switches, and that was our mentality. Real quick on Judge, something I'm looking at here, ranks 20th among center fielders with defensive runs saved, outs above average, 22nd. When they call them 5-star plays and 4-star plays, whatever the criteria may be, it's not good. A lot of it is wear and tear. He can't DH because of Stanton. He's going to be a DH soon. So when it comes to defense, the Dodgers are much better, in my opinion. I don't think Soto is except unless he's a negative
.9 WAR.
Yeah. Well, if Kike and Edman are back there, then the Dodgers are way better. But if it's Pages, that guy honestly is clueless. So I agree with you. It just adds
It's so
to
close,
the magic.
though.
And it's not a direct comparison, and that's these two teams. They're both arguably the best at like different shit, and then they could suck at the other thing. It's just like total. It's not like they're both good at this or that. It's insane, and it adds to the magic. I'm gonna make this one quick because we're going long. We knew I would. DH, even though he's having a good series, Giancarlo, don't call me Mike, versus a guy who's set all-time records.
Consistency matters. I think if you look at this guy's hot spot, I know they put up on the broadcast, they'll put up the square and, his hot and cold spots. I think there isn't a spot in that square that he can't hit. I think it's Ohtani. The question mark coming in was he's never been in a postseason. Well, he strikes out his first at-bat. He hits a home run in his second at-bat. So I trust him a little bit more, not only to get on base, to hit I think he's more consistently as a hitter. He can hit for average. He can give you a single. And here's the difference. He's going to steal second. He's going to give you that speed. If he's on, he could score from first to third. If there's a shot down the line, he can go first, score from first. He can move first to third on a shot up the middle or down to the left or right. So his speed, his versatility, being able to steal bases, and that speed gives him the advantage. And he's shown, whether it's regular season or postseason, it doesn't matter. This guy's just, he's a gamer, and he speaks pretty good English too. Yet he doesn't speak English in his interviews. But I like what I saw with Stanton, but I don't think that is
Stanton. I remember. Usually,
no, I don't think it will hold out. As this series moves along, especially when they get back to New York in that cold weather. He's a Miami guy. Yeah, he plays in New York, but that's going to be tough on him. I don't think he can withstand what he did in Cleveland.
It's crazy. By the way, Stanton was born in L.A., Panorama City, and then he goes to Miami. But with Shohei, he's a leadoff guy. And he's gotten better since, but at one point he was 16 for 19 with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
0 for 19 with nobody on. And
I know there was a question. There was a question as to why Roberts was not moving him down in the lineup, maybe second or third or even cleanup, for that fact alone. And I think once it got to that drastic, like over, he took care of it the next game. It was back to normal Shohei Ohtani.
Exactly. He ended up closing out the series, going 2 for 4, 1 for 3 with 4 runs, 3 walks. He's got a great eye. Betts can crowd the plate. Betts got hurt again, leading off because guys always bust him in. And with Ohtani, he started hitting again, but it does say a lot about the team when he's 16 for 19. It means the back of the order is getting on base. And
right.
He ended up doing much better the last few games, returning to normal. And it just kind of sets the tone. When he first went to lead off, I expected him to move back. He started out hitting second. He did that a lot in Anaheim, but it's just like now batting Shohei Ohtani. And you hear something in the crowd in LA, you hear something on the road, and he went yak opening I think 2 games in New York. And when he goes yak, he just hits the fuck out of the ball. Yeah. And you can't help but be demoralized. And there's nothing better than when the outfielder doesn't move. I get like a baseball boner for that. I love it so much. But yeah, I don't care about Stanton. You got a dude that set a record at 54 home runs and 58 or 60 stolen bases.
Which
He
that
studies
ball
the
just
game.
went. That ball just went for 4.3 million. The
That is
golden
not
auction.
one that, whoever caught it, you don't give it to the kid next to you. You be a dick and keep it, because
And the Dodgers offered him $300K.
Yeah, and like some signed jerseys and shit. And the guy was like, "Fuck you."
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with Shohei. Catcher Will Smith, Austin Wells. There's also Trevino, who was an All-Star last year, but Wells, a lefty, is starting. What are your thoughts on those two guys?
Oh,
Now,
Wells
Smith has
is
been struggling, but Smith's
so
the Gold Glove finalist, right?
Smith is the Gold Glove finalist. Smith is, to me, kind of the heart and soul of that team. His leadership, he is, they always say the quarterback of the field is either, it could be the shortstop or the catcher. I think the catcher is usually the smartest guy on the field. And I think that Will Smith is that guy that has the potential. You saw it in game 6. He, in that big inning where they scored 4 runs, 2 home runs, as you saw at the beginning of the show. He's got the ability to hit the long ball. He's been, he's had his struggles offensively, but the way he kind of commands the pitching staff, I think those are the little things that you're not going to see on the score sheet. It's the comfort level. It's this guy's calling the game. He's calling the right pitches.
Bullpen games too, right? So different guys.
So you're dealing with 4 or 5 different pitchers who have different tendencies. Who have, this is their hot pitch. This is their get out pitch, their get over pitch, whatever the situation may be. So he's playing chess back there. But Austin Wells, he kind of impressed me in the Cleveland series. Got a great mustache too.
He looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I wish I could do that.
And I think it comes down to me is experience. I think there's a lot more experience with Will Smith in big games, in World Series runs, that I think you can't put a price tag on that when it comes to the guys that the moment is never that too big for him. And him getting that home run there in game 6, I think that was huge for his confidence. So yes, you have Trevino, who I believe he was a Gold Glove finalist last season.
Yes.
But he's kind of a wild card offensively. So I think the common thread in a lot of these comparisons is, what you get offensively, you don't necessarily get defensively, or vice versa. And here's another case where maybe offensively, the Yankees might have the slight edge, but I think the experience and then kind of the baseball IQ that Will Smith has gives him the upper hand. And then, obviously the ability to get a big hit when it matters the most. So slight edge for me to the Dodgers, Will Smith. Plus his name is Will Smith. I mean, there's got to be a Jazzy Jeff in the clubhouse somewhere, like sweeping up the place, or I don't know, filling the vending machines.
He's the DJ. I'm the rapper is one of the best.
What an album
of all time.
What a great album.
We're dating ourselves. The people check it out, especially with Halloween coming up. Nightmare on My Street, track 1 on that album. But
what a banger.
Will Smith. I know, dude, it was crazy. Will Smith is another guy. He had cleanup half the year. He got injured, hit 250, 20 home runs. But he's hit as much as 25. And side note, at that Bueller tournament I went to, he was short, dude. And it's before he got bigger. And most MLB guys, like, you don't want to bug them and they'll talk about whatever. All Will Smith wanted to talk about, because he's from Louisville, and we were in Lexington. He just wanted to talk baseball the whole time. And I was just like, wow, dude, this dude's different. And his defense has gone next level. I mean, he couldn't throw anybody out. this year. He's a finalist. I think he caught like 32 dudes. At one point, he was leading the league and caught stealing, and we were like, what? He has had a poor playoff series, to say the least. He has not found it. He's hitting in the hundreds, sub Mendoza, and that's never awesome. He's still getting on base, but there were some at-bats in the Mets series in San Diego where he just wasn't competitive. And we have a huge issue, me, my buddy Charles, my friend that works for the org, all of our friends. Only Ohtani swings first pitch, or Freddie Freeman, who, has reverse splits, who did well against the shift. I mean, just a professional hitter. But Will Smith would just get up there and impatiently take a hack and foul out, and I would lose my freaking mind. But beyond that, you nailed it with his, Kershaw, ironically enough, would only have Austin Barnes catch him. That's because Will Smith called a different game. But that's not going to happen anymore. Will Smith, the Dodgers they had 4 shutouts so far in the playoffs. And Will Smith caught them all. The Padres didn't score since the second inning when they went up 6-1 in Game 3 against the Dodgers. Teo hit a grand slam, made it 6-5. That was the final. But from that second inning, they didn't score again in the series. The next game was a bullpen game, 8-0, then 2-0. Then Game 1 against the Mets, I was fortunate enough to be at 9-0. And then again, they shut out when Buehler went 8-0. So, or was that Yamamoto? I think it was Buehler.
Yeah, it was Buehler. Yep.
Yeah, which is why Buehler's going in New York. Like I said, big game Buehler. So yeah, you got to go Will Smith here. He brings a presence, and the other night he hit 8th, and I don't think you want to see Will Smith hitting 8th, and this being his 5th or 6th playoff series, experience. So I'm with you there too with Will Smith. I know we should probably spend more time on the pitchers, but we spent a lot on the lineups, and we only have 3 starting pitchers, and that's Jack Flaherty, Yamamoto, and Buehler. And you got 3 guys with could be big time question marks. Now the Yankees starting rotation is nothing to write home about. Cole's ERA is in the 3s. They're all righties except for one dude, Carlos Rodon, who actually pitched pretty well in the playoffs, right? But that wasn't always the case. But we can mash right-handed pitching, to say the least. It's hard. I'd give the edge to the Yankees just because they have people that are breathing. There was word we may get Gonsolin back. I doubt it. Kershaw's not coming back. But like I said, about 11 young guys, May, River Ryan, any of those guys, if they were alive, Kyle Hurt, Gavin Stone, Bobby Miller, any of those guys had an arm attached, I think we'd kick some ass. But they don't.
Well, I think you look at New York's I think they got the upper hand when it comes to the closer. I think Luke Weaver he's come out of nowhere. I believe I heard that this is his 3rd or 4th team that he's been with, and he just kind of caught lightning in a bottle for New York when who was their closer? Was it Clay Holmes, who just I think he blew like 9 straight saves towards the end of the season, and they made that switch, and he definitely took off from there.
I disagree in the sense that the Dodgers can mix up. Kopech was closing, lights.
Yeah.
Then he started the last game, because Brazier, who's another fastball hitter, but Blake Trinan, when he's on, is nasty. Nobody's got more movement on a ball than that dude, and he's been closing the last few games. And the Dodgers have options. He has the last 3 saves. But, I agree with you. Luke Weaver has come out of nowhere. But, when you just look at a guy like Clase, and the Dodgers had 3 guys in Phillips, Kopech, and Trinan. that they can go to. And if Klose can get hit, if Weaver can get hit, like I said, I think he's more of a story than a closer in that sense. I don't want to. That's unfair. I shouldn't say it like that, but
no, it makes sense.
I'm all Dodgers right here. I love our three guys. Maybe Phillips not as much, but Kopech has been nasty since he's been in LA, and Trinan has been unhittable.
Yeah.
So
and I think with that regard, I think you can look at the comparison in pitching staffs a lot like we've looked at every other position. It's experience. You got a young guy, Mark Leiter Jr., who came up. They brought him up late in the Cleveland series. He got things done. Tommy Conley, whatever his name is, he's real wonky pitching style. They relied heavily on him in that series. Clark
another
Schmidt,
guy, by the way, who we signed like Trinan when hurt, like Tommy Edman, and he was hurt. Finally gets healthy, is lights out in the playoffs, like Tyler Anderson for the Angels, and then signs with somebody else. And we were like, God damn it. Like, we didn't get shit out of him. But, yeah, they pitched a lot. They pitched him a lot, and that's a dude that gets hurt a lot. So I was surprised by that.
Yeah. So
sorry.
You're going to wonder, you'll have to wonder if New York might fall victim, like Detroit and Cleveland did. They relied heavily on these arms. But I think the saving grace for them is the Dodgers relied heavy on their arms as well. So I think, I think starting pitching wise, LA has the edge. And that's going to matter.
They have more talent, but there's only three.
Yes. And that's going to matter when it comes to them playing in New York in the cold weather. I think you're going to want pitchers that are going to be able to give you innings. And I think New York I should say the Dodgers have the edge in that department.
They do have a lot more diversity. Again, for me, if Gratterall, who we're not sure of, but Vessier is the key, because we've used him so many times against Soto, and he's won the battles. But if you put Banda in there against Soto late in the game with runners on, we are fucking screwed.
Here's another key for the Dodgers. Flaherty's pitched in the cold. He pitched here this year in Detroit. He pitched in St. Louis. So if he toes the slab in Game 4 or Game 5 in New York, I don't think the cold is going to affect him. And if you can get two big-time starts out of Buehler and Flaherty there in New York, things could possibly be looking real good for the Dodgers.
Yeah, we'd be looking at Buehler. So right now, by the way, 62-degree high on Monday, 49-degree low. 63-degree high Tuesday, 64 Wednesday, 48-degree low. So, around 8 o'clock, you're probably looking at mid to low 50s.
The sun goes down
like it was in Fenway, but it could be totally different.
The sun goes down a little bit earlier on the East Coast. And when the sun goes down, it's going to be very cold in New York. There's no question about it. No, very cold.
I can tell you, Fenway, dude, I was just like spiritually, because it's not right. Damn it, it's not right. But there was no amount of alcohol I could drink to get me warm. I was freezing my ass off.
Game 4 at Comerica in the ALC DS, I was shivering, and I had layers on. I didn't have gloves, which I brought gloves, and I didn't bring them into the stadium, and I kicked myself for it. But I had my hood up, and I had my arms tucked into and it's not fun. You're like literally like, get this game over with, and you never want to have that mentality when you're at a baseball game. At least I don't, anyhow. It was freezing, and it was not fun, especially when David Fry took him out in the 7th, which
that sucked, man. Yeah, I think I was at a game when we saw the highlight, and I don't know, ever since knowing you, I have a soft spot for you're like the nicest fucking guy ever, number one. But Detroit, whether it be my boy St. Brown or, it's just hard not to pull for them, except when you guys start fucking winning everything. But yeah, I don't like it. And I thought about maybe going to New York. If my boy calls me and says, "Can you be in New York by tomorrow?" Yes, I'll figure out a way. I'll mortgage my dog. Sorry, Phoebe girl. She's looking at me like, fuck you. But no, I'm with you there. It's weird because Garrett Cole, UCLA guy, Newport Beach, Orange County guy, is 34 with a lot of miles on him, and
he's 34 already.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
He's performed well in New York, the toughest place to play. But 8-5, 3.41 ERA. Didn't get a lot of swing and miss this year. But he's just been a workhorse for so long. Yeah, this is his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like his 5th year in New York. And he missed a little bit of time, but he is 34 and he has fallen off a bit. He is their ace, but he's also a big game guy. So we'll see. Let me do defense real quick. I think it's even. Like you said, it depends on the lineup. The Dodgers are more interchangeable, but with Volpe, Jazz has got a lot of range. I don't think he's a great fielder. Soto, short porch. The catchers, 2 different options. Rizzo, 4 gold gloves. Betts, 6 gold gloves. It's pretty damn even. And I would, if you would agree with me there, finally, I'll let you take this one because our manager can really piss me off. And I hate our third base coach, Dino Ebel. But why don't you take the managers? Good old USC Trojan, longtime Brett Boone versus UCLA Bruin, longtime Dave Roberts.
I think there's one common thread in this matchup. Aaron Boone, old school. Obviously, his dad, Brett. Who's it? Bob Boone.
That's his brother, Bob Boone.
Yeah, Brett Boone. Bob Boone.
For the Angels.
Yep, and he played in Cincinnati. So, they're both old school type managers. Roberts, same way. He was a gritty guy on the base paths, and I think he manages that way. They both expect their teams to be that way. I think it comes down to how is the bullpen managed. I think I was very critical of Stephen Vogt, who let's not forget, this is Stephen Vogt's first year in managing. He literally retired baseball, 2 years ago? And he's, he wasn't even in coaching. He became the coach of the Guardians. So to get to the ALCS is impressive. The way he handled that team was impressive. They were in first place in that division for most of the season. So he did a hell of a job. But he completely mismanaged the bullpen in the ALCS, in my estimation. I felt he relied on Clase way too much. He used Gaddis. So he didn't keep Gaddis in when Clase gave up the home run to Judge. I think they should have let Gaddis come out. And then they used him they extended him too much in game 5 where he gave up the home run to Soto. So I think the way you handle that bullpen is going to come out with this winner. And man, it's tough. It's really tough. So managerial styles, I think they're really even. Roberts has a little bit more experience managing in the postseason than Boone does. Will that come into play? It could, especially when you need to pick the right pitchers. Because remember, you bring in a reliever. It isn't just a one and done. What does he got to see? At least 2 batters. So you got to make sure you're putting the right guy in for the right situation. It's situational plus in today's baseball. So slight edge for me is going to go to Roberts. It's just because he's got that little bit of extra experience and I think a little bit more versatility in the bullpen.
That's all we do. It's 100% matchup. And, when we shut out the Padres 8-0, kind of went with a similar rotation. The next time it was a bullpen game and started Brazier, and it did not work the same. And then they go to Kopech, who, after he came over, had 10 saves, started out the game and just mixed up different guys. And, like I said, you want to get guys to go about 1.1 where you can, lengthen their outing and shorten the game. But, Evan Phillips has been up and down, but he came in and had a good job. And then Trinan was asked to get 6 outs, which he never does. They had some other options, but he got a lot of eager first pitch swings, and he got out of that 8th inning with like 8 pitches. So he was fine to go 9th, and nobody touched him. So it's what we do, but I can't stress enough. Vesia is huge. And if he doesn't play, I'm going to get really, really scared just because of Soto, Wells, like we said, who else is Rizzo, and somebody else is a lefty.
Chisholm,
yeah, exactly. So, Chisholm lays a drag bunt, we're screwed. You know what I mean? So that Vesia is really the key, man.
Wells is a left-handed hitter.
Yeah. So that's what we do.
Verdugo's a left-handed hitter as well. So
yeah, that's right. Alex Verdugo is former Dodger. Just a sound baseball player, never going to hit 25 home runs and steal a ton of bases, but he's going to play tough. And he was a guy traded from the Red Sox to the Yankees, which right there makes him stand out. But you and I knew that we'd talk a lot about this because we're geeked, and plus, as a USC guy and a Raider fan, football's fucking dead to me. So we didn't need Robbie or Brandon, but I wanted to ask you, what's your excitement level for this series?
Well, when I take my Old English D hat off and put on my MLB fan hat, it's a dream matchup. It absolutely is a dream matchup. Just going position by position, looking at Soto, Judge, Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, you're getting the best that baseball has to offer. And I'm not a fan of either one of these teams. I'm not a fair weather fan. I love my Detroit teams. But I do not like New York, and that comes from my father, who is a Detroit or a New York hater, being a Cleveland guy.
Of course.
It's just, if you can put those kind of biases aside and look at it for what it is, I mean, it's must-see TV on Fox. That used to be NBC's moniker, but no, I mean, it's a dream matchup, not only for baseball purists, for Major League Baseball, it's going to be a dream matchup because it's going to be the highest rated World Series, I think, in history.
I hope so, man.
The merchandise that is going to be sold, it's just incredible, and you're getting the best of the best, and that's the only thing you can ask for. Super Bowl is probably the pinnacle of all sports. You want your best teams playing in the Super Bowl. You're getting that this year in Major League Baseball. So, man, I wish my Tigers were there, but I know they'll get there at some point. but this is special. It really is for baseball fans. And you have baseball on Friday night, baseball on Saturday night, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday and Saturday again. So it's awesome. And I think baseball is already, since they've made their changes last year, has seen an uptick in ratings, in attendance. I think it's really going to continue that trajectory, and having a World Series with your two biggest market teams definitely is going to help that along.
I agree with you. I hope. We've talked, and as Robbie says, football rules all. And you had a regular season game outdrawing a World Series game in the past. MLB, if they can't do it here, they can never do it. I mean, you have the biggest markets, the two premier players that are Titans. It's Godzilla and King Kong. They're both monsters.
Yep.
McGuire and Sosa without cheating. It's New York and LA. It hasn't happened since 81. It's Reggie Jackson, Mr. October before that. I told you one of my best friends, college roommate in 95, we made a pact that, and the Dodgers sucked then, that if they ever made it against each other again, we were going to go. So that's what I'm going with Saturday. Again, I wanted to fly in for game one as well, but I flew out last week for 40 hours for game 1 and 2. I'm 48 years old, so my body's still fucked up. But so yeah, I fly in Friday. See, I'm not even gonna get to see my mom this time, but see some homeboys, hang out, watch a viewing party. Saturday game, Saturday night red eye, Sunday baseball tournament and coaching. So
wow,
I could be drunk coaching kids straight up freaking Walter Matthau and Matthews Bears, but I'm not driving. So yeah, it's a quick turnaround, and I'm going to be working 40-hour days like you always do. And obviously not possible, but for a little bit to make up for it. But anyways, I'm stoked. And there's part of me that's nervous that, we're seeing record ticket prices and all these things, but is that just in those markets? Is Joe Baseball in St. Louis going to watch? I really hope so. I hope we blow out ratings. I don't think advertise as well. They don't.
I'll tell you why. I tell you why this is going to be a successful World Series. See the logos in the upper corners of our screen. Those are two of the most recognizable logos in the world. You throw the Block M at Michigan and Manchester United or whichever big soccer. I'm not a soccer guy. I mean, those are four of the biggest well-known logos. I think Yankees is number 1. I think Michigan is number 2 in the world. And even you can throw this in the mix. That's a recognizable logo. But
Old English is gangster, dude. I could just never draw it as a kid when I draw big matchups. And not gonna lie, I don't remember what age it was. I was consider myself fairly intelligent, but I couldn't tell it was N and a Y. I was just whatever the fuck that is, it's cool. I do not see it. Whereas LA, it's pretty blatant. But
it works. But it works. So I expect it to be huge. So we doing predictions?
Do it. You want me to go first? I'll be brief. I think you're like me and any hardcore sports fan in that I'm afraid to jinx my fucking team. I was at a lot of the Houston series, and those bastards cheated, including in games, and it took them 7 games to win. We just beat the Mets in 6, the hottest team, and I don't see us beating the Yankees in 6. It's just those big 3 hitters they're also at 2 of them. I wouldn't put Stanton there quite, but they're spotlight hitters. They're not going to they're not going to fall into a funk. Judge is going to come up in a key moment, and I say you beam his ass or put him on, even if it brings in a run, because one's better than 4. But I'm going to be a homer, providing we stay healthy and providing Alex Vesey is there. And I'm going to go LA in 7.
Like I said earlier, it's going to come down to who can manage the bullpen efficiently. You're going to get power on both teams. There aren't many holes on the Dodger lineup. There's not many holes in the Yankee lineup. I think you're going to see, like I said, a tale of two series in LA. I think you're going to see a lot of offense. And when you come back to New York, that could change. There's definitely a good possibility that they head back to New York even. And
I think they will split. Yeah, definitely.
Yamamoto is kind of a crapshoot. He didn't have the season I think you as a fan were hoping, and I think the baseball world was hoping with him coming over from Japan.
Missing 3 months. But yeah, we're not going to get more than 5 from him.
So that's the one possibility I think where the Yankees could come in and steal one from the Dodgers. But all bets are off when they go to New York. You give the weather, stipulations there. At some point in the game, it's going to dip into the low 50s, upper 40s. And that changes, a ball in LA that goes, 380, 390 plus, going about 320. So that's going to come into play. It's going to become situational baseball. Dodgers play situational baseball because they're a National League team. They can play small ball. But you have Juan Soto with a 299 down the right field line. That is very scary. So
Ohtani can bunt that, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So
Freeman,
I think
Lux.
I think with that aspect, that kind of levels everything. Let me get the camera lens. That levels things. So
crazy, like you said.
Going back to LA, the home crowd, it's just a different atmosphere. I agree with you 100%. I think this series goes 7 because it needs to. I think for baseball, it needs to. I think you as a fan, you're hoping to get it closed out sooner. But me as a fan, I want to watch as much baseball as I can. So I think the Dodgers here, this is definitely, I think sports in general, it used to be home field, home court, home ice mattered. We've gotten away from that in recent years. This series, it matters. You get that crowd. There's going to be 55,000 fans at Dodger Stadium. They're built right on top of you. So it's going to be a whirlwind. And for a lot of these Yankees, this is their first big run. How is that going to come into play? Give me the Dodgers in 7. I trust their starting pitching. And I think they can play better situational baseball. Shohei Ohtani is going to be the MVP because he's going to steal 5 or 6 bases in the series. And I think that's the difference in this World Series.
I won't give an MVP, but yeah, Wells versus Smith is no contest when it comes to caught stealing. And that's a great point. And Ohtani's not the fastest guy, but he's smart as hell. He analyzes everyone. He studied angles on where to slide in, depending on the catcher at what's the most efficient point to touch the bag. His previous season high was like 22, and he stole 58 this year or something.
He was pitching those years, so I mean that makes a big difference. But so, nonetheless,
through that, and other guys can get on, not blazing speed, but I guess we'll see. And we thought it would be shorter, but you and I are baseball purists, and yeah, I started getting kind of queasy talking about this one because now I'm like, whoa, it's really about to happen. So I'm pretty stoked, and I'll try to report back, get some pictures. I have a lot of pictures we can throw up on the site. From games 1 and 2.
We'll do a World Series recap, kind of, hit on, a game by game and highlights, and we could even break in and do a reaction show after the games if you wanted to do that. So
we'll see. I could look like Barney from The Simpsons, like this. So, but anyways, no, I'm stoked, and you said it best, man. It's just like. And it's not the same thing. It's this team's better at that, but this team's better at that. And really no fucking idea. It's a coin flip. And that's the way it should be. Star power, New York, Los Angeles, World Series, a dream matchup for me. Let's go. For myself, Raj Mehta, and of course the great producer extraordinaire, does everything for the show and knows everything about Detroit. Don't forget to check out Debrief. Tom Sloan.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow night. What time are you going? Are you going live on Debrief?
Probably 7 p.m. Probably 7 p.m. There'll be a notification put out. We're gonna have JP the Giant is gonna be joining me to talk. Michigan State, big game this weekend.
I don't know what sport you're talking about, but don't think I didn't notice that royal blue and white hat, baby. That is fucking slick.
I was hoping you were going to come on to that, and also another reckless speculation with the whole crew tomorrow night.
Oh, really? I don't think I'm going to make it.
Well, like I said, the whole crew, it's your coin toss.
Touche. In this case, it will be getting ready for a flight. So
yeah, for sure. And if you're watching this on, I'll probably rebroadcast this on Friday, before first pitch. So if you're watching Friday, disregard the last couple of statements because it would have already come and passed. So.
Everyone, get ready. It's about to go down. This is some UFC heavyweight shit.
To quote the song that they play at every Dodgers game, we love it. Baseball fans, we love it. Let's go.
Andy Newman, I love LA. As soon as it's last out, I yell, play the music. They also started playing on the organ, Not Like Us with Kendrick. So when you got that going too. So for myself, Raj, for Tom, World Series starts Friday night, 8:08 Eastern, 5:08 Pacific. This is Reckless Speculation. Rest in peace, Fernando Valenzuela.
Let's go, Lions.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Reckless Speculation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, searching Reckless Speculation. Catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We look forward to catching you right here next week with another exciting episode of Reckless Speculation.